Can science prove the existence of ghosts? More specifically, what I'm asking is, can the scientific method empirically prove the existence of ghosts? If you're going to ask that, then you might as well ask the question, can science prove anything paranormal? And the simple answer is no. Paranormal meaning beyond the natural realm. Science can only function within the natural realm and natural laws. The scientific method is limited to that which can be observed, tested, and measured. You cannot demand anything paranormal to take place in the confines of a research lab to observe and test it. You cannot catch a ghost, put it in a cage, and bring it to a research lab to observe and measure it. It's impossible. Science cannot prove anything paranormal, and science cannot prove the existence of ghosts. So then why is it that people use the line, they haven't been proven, it's not proven they exist? Why do people make this claim? Probably because they're not aware that it's a paradox. Possibly they reason that if science can't explain it, then it must not exist. But consider this. If science can't explain something, if science can't prove something, does that mean it does not exist? The answer is of course no. Can science prove that certain events actually took place, let's say 50 or 100 years ago? No, it can't. But we take them as fact, and we know that they happened because it's been documented, recorded, and written down by numerous sources, all reporting the same occurrence, along with personal testimonies of those who witnessed the event take place. Science can't prove the event took place, but overwhelming evidence can. Science has its limitations. But what about all of the evidence that exists for something that science cannot prove? Should it be ignored? No. Why should it? Why should evidence be ignored? Why should evidence be ignored until it has been considered, taken into account, and evaluated? And what if there is a substantially large amount of evidence for something that science cannot prove? And this leads me right back to the title question, can science prove the existence of ghosts? No, it can't. But there still remains a substantial amount of evidence that they exist. There is a massive collection of video, picture, and audio evidence and documentation out there, along with groups of paranormal investigators dedicated to researching, and of course claimed encounters by literally millions of people all over the world. According to a recent poll, 1 out of every 5 people have claimed to have encountered a ghost. One of the most common misconceptions skeptics have is that the people who claim paranormal encounters are just an obscure minority of people who have wild imaginations, are mentally unstable, and tend to overreact to things. It's illogical to draw to that conclusion based on the utter mass amount of people who have claimed an encounter. The truth is, the people who've encountered the paranormal are just like you and me. Everyday, normal, mentally stable individuals who have in many cases encountered something so shocking that they are simply convinced of its existence. People who after their encounter can only draw to the conclusion that nothing could have caused what had happened aside from a supernatural force. If you start asking people you know if they've ever seen a ghost, chances are you'll find a few who will tell you their experiences. Should this kind of evidence be ignored? It's really quite simple. If these supernatural spirits didn't actually exist, there wouldn't be any of this. There wouldn't be all the evidence in the mass that we see it today. Sure, there'd probably be a handful of fakes out there, and a handful of people with actual serious mental disorders and delusions who might claim to see things, but that's all it would be if ghosts didn't exist, just a minute amount of nothing. But instead, what do we see? We see evidence all over. Way more media evidence than there are fakers, and the claims of millions. The fact that they do exist coincides perfectly with the amount of evidence and research activity in the field that we see today. So it's your call. You judge. You decide. If you're unaware of the evidence, then do the research yourself. You have the ability to, and that's what the internet's for. But there are 2 reasons behind my motivation to address this subject as I do. Number 1, if you come to the conclusion that these spirits actually do exist, then what does that mean? It means that the supernatural is real. It means that the supernatural realm exists. It exists in this world, in the time and space that we live in, and therefore it exists in the universe. The evidence we have of these intelligent spirit forces directly reveals the existence of the supernatural. There is no possible way that they have a natural cause. They exist beyond the natural realm. Naturalism cannot explain them. They are not bound by natural laws, nor can natural laws explain them. They are supernatural. Their existence alone destroys the irrational theory of naturalism. For those of you who believe that these spirits exist, and you also happen to be an atheist, my question for you is, if the supernatural exists, how then can you deny the possibility of an intelligent supernatural creator? If you're an atheist and you don't believe they exist, then my question is, how can you possibly explain all of the evidence? The second reason I address this topic is to reveal and expose ghosts for what they actually are. I believe that they are biblical fallen angels, more commonly known as demons. They manifest and masquerade as the spirits of people who have died. The evidence I've seen supports this. Their activity indicates typical demonic behavior. They often manifest their evil in various forms, and there have been cases where a haunting results in a person becoming demon-possessed. There's a reason why so many people claim the presence of a spirit is so unsettling. It's not the friendly spirit of a deceased person. It is the presence of an evil entity.